Good morning, everybody. It's me, Mary Jed Wysiak, here with you live with Sarah Jensen. And Sarah is here today because last week we talked about trauma. I talked about trauma, and I talked about how much I don't like talking about it, and I talked about how it's still important to talk about it. And some of you, Laura Vantosh, said, hey, you could talk more about how to, you could go a little deeper with trauma and how to help people who have experienced trauma. And so I just happened to be meeting with Sarah today, and I said, hey, let's talk about what you do. So we're gonna, and what Sarah does is she teaches people DBT skills and how to become DBT informed. It's not a substitution for a DBT total certification, but it really does help people with skills. So we went to meet today, and then we had breakfast, and then it's like, where should we go? And I remembered this little park here. And here's why I love this park, because Harrison Avenue is right over there. We're in Centralia. Main road, big outlet mall. Right over there is I-5. So there's these two major bustle, cars, traffic, shopping, people. And if you just step a little bit inside, there's this beautiful park with this river behind us. I don't know if you can see it. Right? Isn't that beautiful? So this beautiful river behind us, and it's perfect. It's the perfect metaphor for when we work with trauma, is that we have to find that little place tucked away inside, away from the noise and all of the chaos. So what we're going to talk about today, one of the DBT skills is mindfulness, and Sarah teaches courses on that. Stay tuned. She's going to be teaching a course for Holding the Hope. So we wanted to talk about mindfulness, and so I'm going to get Sarah in the frame more. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at the river back there behind us. That's so awesome. We're so lucky to live here in the Pacific Northwest. I love it. Yes. So, Sarah, what is the most important thing for people to know when they're thinking about mindfulness? Or when they want, let's say if they're just totally stressed out, and how do you start being mindful? Like I've heard about mindful, but I don't really even know what it is.
Most people don't.
What is it? Tell us what it is.
I think it's a little bit different for everybody, and depending on where you're at. For example,
oh my God, squirrels
chasing each other.
Oh, sorry.
Not mindful at all. Perfect metaphor for squirrels. So I think if you're in the midst of trauma, like we were talking about, mindfulness is really scary. And the idea of being mindful, because you're asking to focus on yourself and what you're going through. Yeah. But that's not necessarily it. So I will use an example. As a peer, we get to share a story. Plug for peers. So how I was introduced to mindfulness was when I was in DBT. I actually was very privileged to go through it with Marsha Linehan's program. She oversaw my treatment plan. Plug for Marsha. I'm shameless with my plugs.
Shameless commerce. I love this girl.
So I was introduced to mindfulness through DBT because, in my opinion, it's kind of the bedrock of DBT. Mindfulness is. So depending on where you're at and what you're doing and how things look for you, mindfulness can be just simply being present in a positive, safe place for that moment. Even if it's only for a few seconds, that is a safe place. And you can be fully present in that space. And then you have to go back to your life and building upon that. So it doesn't have to be this all-encompassing, okay, I'm one with everything is great. No. My life when I was first introduced to mindfulness was a chaotic mess. It was literally a living nightmare. And yet I was able to find those moments. My kids had been taken. I was dealing with CPS. I was able to actually be really mindful and present in my visits with my kids, which made our visits even better.
Oh, that is awesome.
And we had a supervisor, so people were writing down every little thing you do, that sort of thing.
Oh my God, how horrible.
And I was able to...
that sounds awful.
It was, but we learned from it. And I was also... it is what it is. I can't change it.
Right.
Part of DBT.
I was going to say, that's very skilled.
But that's, being mindful and present in that moment.
Right.
So whether it's... I was thinking about this last night. I live with fibromyalgia, so I have a lot of pain all the time. And being mindful and fully present when you're dealing with chronic pain can also be really scary. But I wasn't present with the pain. I was present on what I was doing, where I was at. I lived by a river, not this one. So I was able to just be present in that moment and really enjoy the sound of the water and the relaxing atmosphere. But I didn't have to be present with that pain. So I was present with what I wanted to be present with, which made me happy and helped me be okay. Does that answer your question about what mindfulness can be?
It does. So if I were to say that I wanted to learn how to do mindfulness so that I could deal with some of the things that I'm experiencing, or let's say I suddenly get reminded of some past trauma, what are some things that you would say to somebody who didn't know how to do anything? How could they start being mindful? Is there like a process to being mindful?
Yes and no.
Yes and no. She should be a lawyer.
Right. Well, I was actually thinking of dealing with a lawyer at the time when you were asking me that question. So again, it's different for every person and depending on the situation. But again, trying to find moments that you are okay with. So
just finding that moment. Is there like a breathing technique or something?
There can be. That's part of mindfulness. There's different forms of mindfulness.
Okay.
So breathing exercises are part of it.
Okay.
Being able to, like meditation is a form of mindfulness.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've heard of people like, getting grounded with their physical surroundings, like touching something so that they can feel that.
And that's
is that part of mindfulness?
It can be. And that's perfect with trauma.
Yeah.
That's perfect with panic attacks.
Yeah.
I have that as well.
Yeah.
And there are times where I carry stuff with me. To help bring me back into that safe place.
And looking. So you're like really kind of are like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's so many different forms, which is part of the reason why I want to put together some trainings on mindfulness.
Yes.
Just saying.
We're going to talk about that later. Shameless commerce. Here we come.
Right. Because it is so huge. It is so. When I was little, I was taught about meditation.
Really? When you were little?
Yeah. My aunt has been doing meditation since she was 11.
Wow.
And that has led to an amazing path for her.
Yeah.
And I felt like a dismal failure.
Because you couldn't meditate?
Nope. Still to this day. To this day.
Isn't it interesting what makes us feel like a failure? She couldn't meditate at 11 years old, so now she just feels like a failure the rest of her life.
Well, if I had shared that, I think it would have been different.
Yeah.
But those of us who live with anxiety,
you don't
so on
say
and so
it.
Forth, we don't because we tell ourselves our own truth. So I didn't recognize and didn't understand until I was in my DBT courses that meditation and mindfulness are very similar. There is a difference, and a lot of people who, for example, have anxiety, I have found working with different peers and whatnot that a lot of us who have anxiety aren't successful with meditation. However, we are with mindfulness.
So that sounds like it bears more in. You need to really kind of study it and think about it. There's a
squirrel like 50 feet from us. He is so cute. I'm sorry, totally not mindful.
Squirrel!
Not mindful at all, but I had to share that.
My
goodness. Is so cute.
It's like he wants to be on camera with us. He's standing there looking at us with his ears all perked up.
Okay,
super cute. Okay, I'm not gonna. Okay, back to you.
The important people.
So mindfulness is awesome. So, is it one of those things? How often? Okay, so let me think. Mindfulness then is something that's pretty accessible to people. Like you said, you bring things with you to help you just ground and stay mindful. It's not something that you have to do for like 10 minutes in the morning. It's something that just becomes a part of how you walk in the world.
Yep.
And that helps with trauma.
Absolutely.
And it helps with people, not trauma, but like experiencing trauma and healing from trauma.
Awesome. Or panic attacks or just regular anxiety that you may be having throughout the day.
Okay.
I do multiple forms of mindfulness throughout my day to be able to cope.
Tell us one. Would you mind sharing one? Breathing. Okay, so breathing is a part of it.
It absolutely is a huge part of it.
Okay.
Being able to ground just with my own surroundings as well. I love this choice.
Right?
I had no idea this was even here.
Isn't this awesome? Right?
Yeah.
Wait, I gotta say, that's so true for me. Like there's a place inside of all of us, I think, that we don't even know is there. This beautiful little serene spot away from all the chaos that's right there, tucked away. And there's kids playing over there, and there's a baseball field over there, and there's adults sitting here. There's squirrels. And I'm sure there's people over there fishing. Yes, so we have these places that we don't even know are there. But so that warrants a little exploration into our psyches and into our surroundings.
It doesn't have to be a wooded area, though. For some people, this isn't safe.
Oh.
For some people, this is trauma. This is triggering. So for some people, it might be New York City.
I hadn't even thought about that.
For me, New York City is trauma.
Yeah.
Triggering, no. For me, this is my safe place. It's easier for me to ground in this. Whereas some people, they need the city, or maybe it's in between. Maybe it's farmland.
So you got to think about it.
It's very different.
And just kind of determine how you feel about different places.
But it's there. It's absolutely there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What else would you tell us about mindfulness? What do you think is the most important thing people should walk away with knowing about mindfulness?
Anyone can do it.
Oh.
It is so easy.
It's a skill?
In a way.
So it's a skill.
It is a skill. It's easy, but it is also super difficult. I know. The dialectic, see, DBT again, of mindfulness. But I think it is so, the word mindfulness is so overused. Like, oh, well, you have to be mindful of this. You have to do this.
Exactly, right.
It's like that go-to, oh, well, you've got to try mindfulness.
And we all think we know what it means.
Right. And I love to share this story. I worked with somebody who was transitioning, and she has massive panic attacks, severe anxiety, like I do as well. And I suggested we try some mindfulness, and she was super resistant. Super like that. She's like, no way, this is not for me. I'm like, okay, here's why I think it would be a good idea. Here are some of the things that we can work on and kind of maybe try to overcome a little bit. So she was willing to try it. She's very skeptical, but she was willing to try it. Exactly.
To try.
So this was probably about a year ago that we started our journey of mindfulness, right? And we're going along, and she's learning this skill. She's doing amazing. She's actually starting to be able to go out of her house. So then she comes in after Thanksgiving, our first session back after Thanksgiving. She went to Bass Pro Shop for Black Friday with her mother and stayed. I could not, I still cannot express how excited I was for her that she was able, using her mindfulness skills. And she actually told me, I was breathing, I was checking, I was using all of my skills, I was doing my mindfulness, everything was just working, and I was a little uncomfortable, but I stayed. And she'd never done that before.
What a huge success.
And that was because of the mindfulness that she was willing to try.
And it goes back to how we all redefine our own success, right? For her going to a store and staying there with your mother. It's huge. Right, yeah. Well, this has been really helpful, Sarah. I really appreciate it because we all have different journeys as we deal with the things that help us heal. And I think whether we're in recovery from mental illness or we're in recovery from substance use or both, we all have some things that upset us or that are difficult or that might send us running back to whatever it is that we're trying to get well from. And so the more tools that we have, the better. And the more able we are to really live in our own skin and be authentic and live an authentic life, to me, that's success. So we made a little indication earlier, but what we wanted you to know is that in October, Sarah is going to be doing an entire one-day workshop on DBT skills. And you'll be getting, if you attend that workshop, you'll be getting not just some lessons on mindfulness, but lessons on all the DBT skills so that you'll leave really informed on how DBT can help you or help the peers that you work with. And it's just going to be a fantastic day. Just a one-day deal, and we're going to try to work it out so that when you leave, you'll have a workbook so you can actually be working on how to do those skills for yourself. And we really want to be able to provide those skills because we all are getting well from something, and DBT works for so many things. And so the more you know about it, and then you just come to this little one-day workshop and decide whether or not you want to go to the Linehan Center or go somewhere else and really immerse yourself in a full-scale deal with DBT. But this, we just want you to become aware and informed of what these skills are and how they will impact your life.
And how to use them. How to use them in different roles.
That.
There's that important part too, because I'm sorry, shameless. I'm shameless. But one of the things that I've heard over and over and over and over as a peer from therapists even is, okay, well, but where does a peer fit in? Well, let me tell you, with DBT skills, that's where a peer fits in, because we share our lived experience.
Right.
Where the therapist is not always able to. They're doing the therapy part of it. But as a peer, we absolutely are in a perfect position to be sharing those skills. Even if you didn't go through DBT like I did with Marshall Linehan and all of that, that's okay. You still have life experiences to draw on, and you can still share those experiences and make them pertain, not make them, and show how, that they pertain to a specific skill that you may be working with a client. It may not be mindfulness. It might be something else. It might be distress tolerance. It might be emotion regulation.
Radical acceptance.
I love radical acceptance.
Deep sigh on radical acceptance.
Yes, but that is something else that we go into in the DBT seminar, is what is radical acceptance, and how do we have radical acceptance, because it's huge.
Yeah. So as I said, we're going to try to find a date. We're looking at October, and we will of course send out an announcement, and we'll send out we'll send out Eventbrite and events on Facebook, and announce it on YouTube and all the places that you can find Holding the Hope videos. And by the way, I would like to thank the one person who did subscribe to my YouTube channel last week. You're awesome.
It wasn't me. I'm sorry.
It wasn't you.
I'll do that when I get home.
My God. I'll be up to 9 if she does it. So anyway, I'm super excited to be here and to be able to provide you with some skills. And thank you, Laura, for challenging me to go a little bit deeper when we talk about trauma, as opposed to just saying, ouch, this hurts, to say, hey, here's what we can do. And one of the things I thought about was, I kept saying how much I disliked talking about trauma. And I realized it wasn't the talking about trauma, it was the way it made me feel. It made me feel vulnerable. It made me feel exposed. And I don't like feeling vulnerable, and I don't like feeling exposed at all. And so that's why it was so uncomfortable to talk about this. And maybe you're feeling exposed, and maybe you're feeling uncomfortable as well. But I feel as if we have some tools, we can then begin to have some power, to kind of regain our power and regain control over our lives and over our recovery. And that's what it's all about, right? Is what are the tools that we need to get well and stay well? So, my name is Mary Jadwisiak, and I'm here with Sarah Jensen, and coming to you from Chehalis, Washington, in a cute little park on the river. Have absolutely no idea the name of it, but it's awesome. Have a fantastic weekend and stay hopeful. Bye. Nice job.
Thank you.